There's a challenge in this book called the No Complaining Challenge, where you're asked to go 7 days without vocalizing or writing out a complaint. And that's actually out of the 10 challenges, there's like cold exposure, forgiveness, um, purging, gratitude, stillness, etc. No complaining is the hardest challenge for people to do. I've run this for a long time, and I've had many people go through these different challenges, and almost everyone, without exception, takes a lot longer than 7 days to get through 7 days without complaining. But what you realize when you stop trying to complain, or what you realize when you stop complaining is you're surrounded by complainers because it's so common in our society. And that's how a lot of us bond with each other, is through complaining. Right? So much so that if you ask somebody, how are you doing? I can't complain, right? That's just a stock answer because that's what we're so used to doing.
Right.
And, but you also don't realize how much you bring the energy down in the room when you are engaged in complaining, and how much you can lift the energy up when you do the opposite, which is appreciation or gratitude. And so when it comes to the three phases or the three approaches to change, one is the eat, pray, love, which is blow my life up, you know, quit the job, divorce my spouse. I need to just do a complete 180. And look, again, maybe there's some outliers where, that has worked out really well for people. I would say most people, it doesn't go as well as they imagine it going in their mind, because they still haven't really adopted the lifestyle of the things that they say that they want to experience more of, which is more presence, more fulfillment. That stuff is like going to the gym. Can't just snap your fingers and have a six pack. You gotta earn that, and you earn it through reps. And so there's no eat, pray, love approach to working out. Okay. And the same thing is true with happiness and fulfillment and presence. So the other path, the one that we oftentimes default to because we don't want to make any kind of changes, is the crisis approach, where we keep doing the same thing. We keep putting lipstick on the pig. We keep pretending, dressing things up, staying on longer than we're able to sustain that internally. And everything starts imploding. And then that's where you get the Will Smith, Chris Rock situation, where you have somebody with all this abundance, all this wealth, all this influence, and they snap and they do something that makes everybody go, what were they thinking? Why would they throw all their reputation and all the goodness away in 2 seconds because the guy said something they didn't like? Well, that didn't just occur in 2 seconds. That was building for years and years and years. Look, I don't know Will Smith's backstory, but we all know from what he's put out there that he's gone through a lot of stuff in his marriage and in his upbringing, etc. And whether we want to acknowledge it or not, we need a release valve for the daily accumulated stress of just living normal life on planet Earth. That's what our inner work serves, is as a release valve, so that we can reset on a regular basis to that more curious, more forgiving, more compassionate, more connected, more fulfilled version of ourselves. And when we do that, it doesn't mean life is going to be perfect. It just means we're going to make better choices for ourselves because we're going to have the advantage of more spaciousness. And so the third path helps us do that. It helps us cultivate that spaciousness inside. I call it the tortoise approach to change, which is basically adopting the gym workout model. You have some resistance. Like when you go to the gym, you're going to be experiencing resistance. That's the point. You're going there to put yourself in a situation where you're going to have to experience some resistance. You're volunteering to do this, voluntary discomfort, and you understand that the payoff is that you're going to grow as a result. You're not going to like it in the process, but you're going to get a bit of a pump. You're going to grow. Your muscles are going to become stronger. You're going to go in the next day. You're going to do it again, except you're going to add a little bit more resistance to it. And there's no graduation date from this. So you may as well not, go in there and try to lift too much, or you're going to end up injuring yourself. So you got to take it very slowly, very gradually. You want to optimize for consistency. And I would say that you have to do the same thing in all other areas of life where you want to experience growth. You want to take the slow and steady approach, understanding that there's no graduation date and that you need a little bit of resistance in all areas of life if you want to expand into the version of yourself that you've always envisioned.
I love the analogy of the gym because it's one of those things where in the beginning you don't see the results right away either. So,
No.
the other part that I think is really challenging is it's the results are hidden and they're inside. Anytime I get off of my cycle, I've talked about this before on this podcast, but anytime I get off of my cycle of working out, maybe I've been on the road traveling a bunch and you get hit a lull or you're not as consistent as you want. The first thing I do is just start to build the habit again. And so I might do 15 to 20 minutes, 5 consecutive days, 6 consecutive days in a row to get myself back in. So it's that tortoise approach, that small little bite size thing to build the habit again. Because what I find is once the habit's built, I miss it. But I need
Mhm.
I need to remind myself that I miss it. And I don't know why we all do that. We do that with lots of things that work really, really well. People talk about it in business all the time. They're like, I was doing this and it was working so good. And then they'll find themselves going, well, I don't know why I stopped doing that. And, it's because everything got too fast. It's also very difficult, to your point, it's very difficult to respond when you're moving too fast. So it's reactive when you're moving so fast. When you're responsive, you have to slow down to respond. I have to think about how I'm going to respond to this person. I have to think about how I'm going to respond, to this action, whatever it may be. And it the worst decisions we make are very reactive on average. They're not the best decisions. So this is so helping someone understand that they don't have to blow up their life. And while Eat, Pray, Love is a great movie, it's very unique. Not many of us want that strategy. There are other things that we can do, and it's a bite-sized approach to changing ourselves. Maybe even starting with just not complaining.
Mm.
That's good.
Yeah. And it's not that there's something wrong with going to on a world trip and all of that. We just want to manage our expectations and don't think that going to Bali and doing the monkey forest excursion and elephant excursion and the water temple excursion is going to have a profound change on our ability to be more present in our life back home. Usually what happens is we get back home and we're kind of the same, except we have some cool photos in our camera roll that we can share on social media, but not much has changed um, internally. And so if we want to see more of our own potential, if we want to be able to see and be present with people in our life more and allow them to feel, appreciated by us, that's an ultra marathon of reps and practices that it doesn't have, it's not an ultra marathon in the sense that it's going to wear you out. It's just in terms of timing and intentionality, you have to bring that same level of patience. People say in the business world, success loves speed. And I would say that's a scarcity mentality. I get what people are saying. It means you can make a lot of money if you go faster and break things. But what do you think is going to happen on the other side of making all that money? You think you're going to be more fulfilled if you get to the money faster? No, you're going to be the same person that you were before, except now you just have more money in your bank account. And what money tends to do, again, is it exposes what's not going well inside of you because you end up having that day of reckoning, which is, I thought this was going to be the solution, and it's not. Now I'm even more depressed because I can't buy my way to fulfillment. I can buy anything I want in the world, and there's nothing I want because everything I've tried it's not helping me to feel more connected to the moment. So fulfillment loves presence. It loves being in the moment. And I would say, again, go fast, do whatever you want to do in business. Just understand that there's a different protocol for being fulfilled. It's just like when you do bench presses for your chest. And if you're doing that thinking your legs are going to get stronger, you're delusional. You got to get on the squat rack. And so presence is this, and gratitude and kindness and compassion. Those are the squat racks and the deadlifts for fulfillment. And you have to do that with just as much intention, just as much consistency as you do the bench pressing for success.
It's full body fulfillment. You know, at the end of the day, what we're talking about is full body fulfillment. I've in my career transformed from doing more of the individual guidance and wealth management to mergers and acquisitions and helping advisors. The average age of someone in my industry is 62 years old, and so when there's a major gap in the generational talent and upbringing of next generation. There's also a lot of people selling their businesses. So I get involved in that. The number one thing I see, to this point that you're making, almost every day, is these individuals are getting millions and millions of dollars for their businesses, and they feel worse than they did all through the years of building it. They have not built, they have been doing bench press, but not working their legs. That's
Mhm.
exactly what they're doing, because
Chicken
fulfillment,
chicken legs of fulfillment, I call it.
chicken leg, it's the worst. It's the worst. And but it's so true. It's what one of the things that launched me into writing my book was helping people establish their impact prior to making these transformative moments, because they were driving, their purpose was going all towards their career,
Mhm.
and so many other things were shrapnel on the side of the road instead. And so, to your point, you can go fast in business and you can be successful, but you know, I probably say this every other podcast. I've given 4 eulogies in my life for all 4 of my grandparents. Not once did I mention what they did for a living and how much money they made. I talked about how they made people feel, who they loved, what they loved, how I felt, you know, how I grew because of them, how I learned from them. That's what life is about. And when we focus on that full body fulfillment, it's so powerful. And so, what are some of the action steps that this book provides is really a way, a guide for people to transform their life with small changes that are exponential in results. Is that a good summary or a
Yeah, and it's
concept?
and it's and it's where you are right now. So this whole idea that I need to be in a different situation, a different environment. No, you don't. You can change dramatically a year from now by just doing small little things, small inputs on a regular basis. You don't have to quit your job, you don't have to leave your partner. I'm not saying that those things won't be relevant at some point in the future to transition or to relate to that person in a different way. A lot of times, here's how you know that you're the problem. You think they're the problem. And a lot of people wake up every morning thinking my partner is the problem, my job is the problem, my community is the problem. No, you're the problem. And I say that not in a sense to not in a way to shame anyone, but if you acknowledge that I'm the problem, then you also, along with that, you also have the solution. If they're the problem, you have to wait for them to do something different. If the neighborhood's a problem, you have to wait for some city council person to do something different. But if you're the problem, if the way you're engaging with that person or with that environment is the problem, you can solve that today. You can solve that in the next 10 minutes just by doing something a little bit different. Again, voicing appreciation instead of complaint. Try that. If you think your partner is the problem and you think that you're justified in complaining as much as you've been complaining, run the experiment of not complaining for 7 days. Don't even worry about appreciation. Just don't complain for 7 days and see what happens. Then, after you get through 7 days of that, add a little bit of a compliment, add a little bit of appreciation, and watch how that person changes. Watch how much more they feel seen around you. Watch how much more generous they become with you because you're the one person in their life who actually sees them for who they see themselves as, right? So you can't guess this stuff until you actually do it. Just like you can't guess how your body's going to look until you start going to the gym and start working out. It's not going to be comfortable. And so we want to get rid of the expectation that it's supposed to be comfortable and they're supposed to do it for me. No, you go first. You're listening to this episode, you're hearing this conversation. Maybe it's resonating with you. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, he's got a decent point. Okay, so now you know better. You go first.
So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you. and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.